morning, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to this January meeting of Cabinet. My name is Councillor Millia. I'm the leader of BCP Council and I'll be chairing the meeting today. I'd like to welcome members of the public and of the press and officers and of course councillors to this meeting today, both who are in the room and online. I'm just going to hand over to Sarah from Democratic Services to go over some housekeeping for today's meeting.
Thank you. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, although ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair in case of disruption. For those in the room, please note if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the front of this building. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down completely on your laptops. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So agenda item 1 is apologies. I can see that all of our Cabinet members are here, so we don't have any of those. Agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. Again, I haven't had any come through, but if any come up, please let us know. So we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is the confirmation of minutes. That is from the Cabinet meeting that was held on the 17th of December 2025. Can I have a proposer for this item?
Yes, happy to propose, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Moore, and someone to second, please. Thank you very much, Councillor Martin. Can I check and see if there is agreement amongst Cabinet that those minutes are accurate, please? Yeah, thank you. So we'll go on to agenda item 4, which is public issues. We haven't had any petitions or questions submitted from members of the public for this meeting, but we have had one statement which has come from Mr. Darren Pidwell, who is the chair of the Mudford Sandbank Beach Hut Association, which relates to agenda item 6. Mr. Pidwell isn't here today, so I'm going to ask Sarah to read his statement out, please.
Thank you. Public statement from Darren Pidwell, Chair of the Mudford Sandbank Beach Hut Association. We are frustrated that BCP Council are again targeting Mudford Sandbank hut owners to raise additional revenue and with no prior consultation. Annual costs will rise by 24% to £5,200 per annum, doubling since April 2023. For many, this will become a significant financial burden. This is additional to the 2023 harmonisation increases, when we were told that a significant proportion of that money raised would be invested into beach facilities. None happened. The infrastructure is now almost untenable. The huts have no mains water, electricity or sanitation. Public toilets and standpipes have to suffice. They can be occupied for only 8 months of the year. How can these be considered as homes? What is the legal basis for council tax? We recognise the council's difficult financial position, but further penalising hut owners is no longer fair or viable. The proposal must therefore be rejected.
Thank you, Sarah. So agenda item 5 is recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committees. These are recommendations that might not be on the agenda, so not relating to a particular agenda item. Can I ask the chairs if they have any items to report? Councillor Salmon.
Hello, good morning everybody. Thank you very much, Leader. So we do have one recommendation to report from our January Overview and Scrutiny Board. I'll just give you a brief summary of what that was about. The board received an update report last week at our meeting from the Regeneration Service. The report gave us a fairly high-level overview of all the various regeneration projects that are currently underway or in the pipeline at the present time, including Carter's Quay, Holes Bay, the Dolphin Leisure Centre, Constitution Hill and the Winter Gardens. The report also touched on the growth plan that we understand will come through later this year. The board felt that while it was useful to receive this summary report, there were a lot of more detailed questions that could be asked and explored in relation to some of these projects. There was a general consensus amongst board members that regeneration was a key topic for scrutiny now and in the coming year or so, up to the end of the current council term. So there was a useful discussion as to how the board would like to proceed in this timeframe, and it was felt that a good starting point would certainly be the growth plan. Overall, the feeling was that ONS should take a proactive approach to scrutiny of regeneration projects, rather than simply following the Cabinet Forward Plan as projects and reports come through. The recommendation that was given in the report that the board received was that the board should encourage Cabinet to lobby government for funding to support regeneration. While this is recognised as clearly a sensible course of action, the board felt that a stronger recommendation to support the scrutiny function's role would be as follows. So here the recommendation is that the Overview and Scrutiny Board recommend to Cabinet that to enable effective lobbying of government in the future, the draft of the BCP Growth Plan be shared with ONS board members when available, and that Overview and Scrutiny be embedded in the plan's development and approval process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon, and to the members who were involved in scrutiny on Monday night. I thought it was a good discussion, and I'm minded to accept that proposal from scrutiny, as I indicated in the meeting, but we will come back with a formal response for scrutiny committee. Thank you. I can't see any other indications from chairs of scrutiny committees. So we are going to move into the main part of our agenda today, which is agenda item 6. So we'll start with the council tax base and the tax base for 26-27. Councillor Cox is going to be presenting and proposing the item. Is there someone who can second that one?
Yes, Leader, happy to second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Over to you, Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I don't think ever in the history of council tax base motions has this item attracted so much attention. And so I did think it was worthwhile just going through actually how this base is calculated in the first place, because I think it is important. The council tax base is used by not just BCP Council, but also many of the other councils, precept owners, to calculate what their tax is going to be for the next year. You'll see in the Appendix A actually how that is calculated, and it's just worthwhile going through. The calculations include estimate changes in the valuation office evaluation lists for which might take place in 26-27, and those include things like provisions for successful appeals, exempts properties, the number of changes in properties, whether demolitions or new additions, the cost of the local council tax support schemes, single persons discounts, and estimated collection rates. And you can see there that we've estimated the council tax base to be 151,574.2. That was in 25-26, and that has increased by 0.6% in 26-27 to 152,481.7. That's quite a small increase, and you may recall I think it was in the previous year or the year before that, there was quite a large increase when we took into account the fact that we had second homes premium that was taken. And in this one, part of this increase is to do with the fact that we are removing the discount on a relatively small number of beach huts in Muddyford, 344, where they attracted a previous discount of 50% on those properties, and that will no longer apply. I'm sure everybody is aware that the settlement that we got from the government was beyond brutal, to use an expression, and we are struggling really to balance the budget, and we are pulling every lever we can, and this is one of them. So on that basis, I want to recommend to Council that we approve the report for the calculation of the council tax base for the year 26-27 and recommend the tax base to full council. And then pursuant to the report and in accordance with the local authorities calculation regulations as amended, the amount calculated for the council tax base for Bournemouth Christchurch and Poole for 26-27 be 152,481.7.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cox. Are there any councillors in the room or online, not on Cabinet, who wish to speak on this item? I can't see any indication, so over to Cabinet, please. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I wanted to speak in support of this proposal. And as Councillor Cox says, the calculation of the council tax base doesn't usually attract too much discussion and debate. But for me, there are a few points worth making. Councillor Cox talks about, our really poor financial settlement in the unfair funding approach of national government, and the fact that we'll be having millions of pounds less government grant year on year on year for the next few years, and we have to cope with that one way or another. And so he talked about pulling every lever we have. Well, I mean, there's one lever we haven't pulled, but I'm really pleased we haven't, which is about local council tax support scheme, which is mentioned in the report. And that's obviously the scheme where those people on the lowest incomes don't have to pay the full council tax and pay a discounted rate of council tax. And I guess it's within our remit to change the rules of that and reduce the eligibility and reduce the discounts and actually put more of a burden on those who are least able to manage it. But we haven't done that. And I'm really proud that we haven't done that. We've maintained the same local council tax support scheme that we've had for a number of years now. And for me, if we had to pull that lever, that would be really the last one I'd want to pull. So I'm really pleased that we've managed to sort of maintain the local council tax support scheme that we've got. I'm really pleased that actually we manage the discounts that people claim really effectively, and we've all seen examples in the last year of highlighting people who've been getting single persons discount when they're not eligible and having to sort of back pay their council tax that they're due. And I think the systems we've got in place to make sure that we're managing that and making sure that we do collect the right council tax from each resident is correct and is to be applauded. And then just coming on to the Mudderford Spit beach huts issue, and I take the point that was made in the public statement that that it is hitting those people, and they'll have to pay more, but the council's also being hit quite substantially and having to find more money, and some areas that are particularly of benefit to those people with beach huts on Mudderford Spit are around coastal protection. We have to find millions of pounds, and at Cabinet we've had lots of papers about funding millions of pounds of capital programmes for coastal protection schemes, and some of that has to come from council taxpayers, and I'm afraid some of that money from the Mudderford beach hut owners will be benefiting them directly by actually protecting that coastline for them, as well as the fact we've had discussions about the costs of lifeguarding, which are jointly funded by the RNLI and by BCP Council taxpayers. And there's a lifeguard point at Mudderford, and that would directly benefit those people that have beach huts on Mudderford Spit. And that's quite a substantial cost to the council that we have to find year on year to fund that. So while I accept that they may not gain from all the services that the council provide, but there are particular services that the council have to fund that actually are more of benefit to those people with beach huts there than myself living in North Poole. So I think although it's not welcome, and nobody likes to have an increase, I think it's justifiable in my view, and so I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Hadley.
Thank you. I just think I probably need to correct Councillor Brown on Councillor Herritt's behalf, because I think the lifeguard is on the other side of the water.
It's
Mudderford.
at Mudderford.
But the key bit for me, I suppose, and it is difficult times, but as Councillor Brown just highlighted, the coastal protection is a real challenge for us, and we've gone through a significant strategy for the Christchurch Bay, and that indicates millions of pounds worth of expenditure that will be needed that we won't get any government grant for. So that will come from local taxation from everybody across the conurbation. So that's something very specific to the people in those beach huts that I think they need to recognise. that is going to be a big contribution. I think the other bit for me is that this is half of a Band A property. So it's half of what is already at the very bottom end of our housing requirement. I don't actually know any Band A properties, but I suspect they're going to be small flats in parts of our towns that are, where people have not an awful lot more than a beach, frankly. And the other bit of that, of course, is that mains, water, and electricity sanitation, as the gentleman highlighted in his message to us, are funded from other things. You pay water rates. Well, they're using the public toilets that we provide, and that we provide the water for the standpipes. So we did actually. I think all members probably got three emails from that gentleman. I guess that constitutes lobbying, so probably ought to declare that. But I do have sympathy. But I think, as he recognises, we have huge costs to bear. Some of those are very specific to the properties on that sandbar, and not least also the countryside wardens and the seafront rangers who go along there and work on that space too. We all have to give and take a bit. None of us use all of the facilities that the council provide, it's a lot of second homes are on 200% premium, so that we're not asking that from them. There was just a slight question I had in the table on that in terms of the second homes premium, because there are 27 properties that have a 50% discount. So they are classified as second homes, but they're a discount to the council tax. And I wasn't sure there's 3,743 that have a 200% council tax because they're second homes. So I wasn't quite sure what classification those were. Thank you.
Any other cabinet members wishing to speak on this item? Councillor Herrick.
Yes, as the cabinet member who goes and meets the beach hut associations, I hear a lot about their frustrations, and a lot of their frustrations do relate to a lack of investment and long-term view along the seafront, as the council has been asked to cope with successive kind of funding decreases as it comes. And the promise about the escalation was made under the previous administration, that a lot of that money would be ring-fenced to go back in, and then when it came to their budget, it did not. And I just wanted to make sure that it was really clear that that was not a decision made by this administration, but the promises made were made by the previous one. And I do understand that frustration, and our seafront team are working really hard on trying to find ways we can invest in some of those facilities. But we are against the backdrop of an incredibly hard funding situation. So yeah, we are attempting to address some of their concerns, but ultimately, given the levers that we do have to pull and we have available to us, this is probably one we do have to.
Thank you, Councillor Herrick. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Lydia. Just very briefly, some people may find it surprising that actually I do go to places outside of the Republic of Highcliffe, and one of our favourite places to go and walk the dog is Hengistbury Head and out onto the sandbank. It's a fantastic natural environment, love it there. And every time we go there, it's quite obvious how much investment goes in from BCP Council. Got the rangers down there, you've got the animals, you've got all the work that goes on the beaches. So it's obviously slightly frustrating when people say, well, we don't have running water, we don't have this, we don't have that. And picking up on the point I think that Councillor Brown made and Councillor Hadley, this council puts a huge amount of investment in that area, and I see that at least twice a month. The other point I would make is in the context of our budget, and I've made this point before, some of the things that come under me as a portfolio holder are non-statutory, and it's always a challenge to fight for those things, because in the appalling financial situation that we find ourselves in, and local government finds itself in generally over the last few years, that's always a struggle. So I would simply point out that, and I think I've got the figure right, that the revenue that we will accrue from this proposal is 211,000, I think it is. So in some of the things that I look after as a portfolio holder, 211,000 is a huge amount of money in terms of what it can deliver in terms of other services and for other people. So I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. I can't see any other indications, but I did just want to clarify a little bit more, because we've seen some information coming out, particularly from MPs, celebrating vast amounts of money being allocated to BCP Council. We know that our provisional settlement is a very different story. In fact, government have the provisional settlement says that we're likely to lose about £20 million over the next 3 years from our from the various grants that we get, and that will have a huge impact on not just our budget but on the services that we provide. And I just wanted to echo what Councillor Brown said about continuing council tax discounts and discretionary discounts for people who are the most vulnerable in our communities. Now, other councils have lost that. In fact, I've been speaking to other leaders who have had to make that difficult decision to lose those. But when we do get to budget, it's really important to remember that these are not easy decisions, and we are going to have to look very seriously at the amount that we're spending and how we can generate new income, because the situation isn't particularly positive. So I was just going to ask Councillor Cox to sum up, please.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you to everybody for the contributions you've made, which I think are quite important. You know, I do have actually a lot of sympathy for the points that are being made by Mr. Pidwell and the association, but you know, as you've quite rightly said, you know, we have to concentrate our efforts on those that can least afford it, and in terms of the beach huts, they do sit on some very, you know, expensive assets. I do have a lot of sympathy for those people that have inherited those and are not necessarily individually wealthy. But at the end of the day, it is a very valuable asset that they sit on, and therefore we've got to take that into consideration. And I do take the point, as a number of you have mentioned, about the investments that we do make in that area, and would also point out that the groin and the ferry jet, which has come directly out of council taxpayers' money, which directly benefit those beach huts. So I thank you for your contributions and recommend that we pass this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. So I'm going to ask Cabinet if we can take a vote on this item. Can I see all those in favour of the recommendation? That is unanimous. Thank you. Right, so we move on to agenda item 7, which is the housing and property compliance update relating to the housing revenue account. Councillor Wilson is going to be presenting and proposing the item. Can I see if there is someone who can second this, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Moore. Councillor Wilson, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. I'm really pleased to give a brief overview of our housing compliance performance up to October 2025. It's really important that Cabinet stay up to date with what is happening within our homes that we manage. Across all key safety areas, BCP Homes has made significant progress. Fire safety work is up to date with all required fire risk assessments completed and quarterly updates provided to the national regulator. Residents in our high-rise blocks are now better informed through refreshed engagement strategies and new digital notice boards in communal areas. And smoke detector checks continue annually across our homes. In terms of gas safety, every property is fully compliant with annual testing. All work is carried out by our in-house team, backed up by independent audits from Corgi Technical Services. And we've also introduced new checks on gas supply points to prevent unauthorised installations. Lift safety, water and asbestos management are all fully up to date with no outstanding inspections. Electrical testing is now aligned to the new 5-year cycle, and although 8 properties were outstanding at the end of October, all were due to residents refusing access and are now being managed through an established procedure. Importantly, our tenant satisfaction measures show compliance in every major category, and 80% of our residents feel safe in their homes, with most concerns relating to antisocial behaviour rather than the conditions of properties. And that is something that we're doing a lot of work in trying to tackle. We've done really well on our stock condition surveys. As the report states in October, we were up to 71% completed within the last 5 years. As of today, it's over 80%. And this data helps to shape our long-term investment plans, tackle hazards such as damp and mould, and ensure that homes remain compliant and in good condition. And this progress has been outstanding in such a short period of time. Significant work has also been taken in the approach to damp and mould via a dedicated project group, which has been in place since January last year. The aim of which was to ensure a readiness for the introduction of AWAB's law by drawing on the best practice guidance available mainly at the time from the Ombudsman's Office. This has put us in a really, really strong position. However, it has meant some added pressure to the budget, which is to be expected. Even though the maintenance budget is under pressure due to the increased demand, average job costs remain stable and below the national average, and that is a real credit to our repairs team. So overall, I'm very, very proud of the way BCP Homes is delivering strong performance across all areas of compliance, with improved systems, increased staffing, and a continued commitment to keeping residents involved and at the heart of what we do, and safe in warm, well-maintained homes. So very pleased to present the report as set out, and look forward to any questions or comments that colleagues or other councillors may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I'm going to ask if any councillors who aren't on Cabinet wish to speak on this item. Can't see any indications, so we'll go to Cabinet, please. Councillor Hadley.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I read this report, and I really have to congratulate the team on this. I think it's an excellent piece of work, and for people who are our tenants, it's actually quite enviable for against those in the private rented sector that probably don't have this level of checks and compliance. It is a shame that there are, I think, 8 properties where we are denied access to be able to make their properties safe for them, and has to wonder why that's the case, but the fact we're working with them is really helpful. And it was great news, all great news, until we got down to paragraph 76, which was the budget and the fact that it's overspent. But as you've explained, per unit, where it's not expensive, it is just the fact that we've got the increased requirements. And AWAB's law is about mould and damp, and the impact of that on children's health in particular, which again is a really important topic. So I think it's a really good, and Simon's on the call, and I think should be congratulated for the work of his team in supporting that work.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hadley. Councillor Moore.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I understand that the keeping homes safe, warm and comfortable is now a requirement for all social landlords, and this clearly has a positive impact on public health and the well-being of the residents who live there. And I'm especially pleased to see the work that's been taking place on damp and mould. Over the years, I've been contacted by many residents who are concerned about damp and mould present in their properties, and I've helped with some very complex cases, including one really dreadful case where it was eventually found that the property had actually been built without a damp-proof course. So I'm pleased to see that all this work and the new legislation that's in place that can help our residents. I'm also pleased about the work on the new fire regulations for high-rise blocks of flats. Sadly, one of the few positives to come from the Grenfell tragedy. Appendix 1 in the report, the scorecard, does identify some problem areas which require attention, but it's clear all are known and in hand. We even have some complicated cases requiring a court to provide access to a property which has previously been denied. So all in all, this is a really good report, and it's thorough and it's interesting, and I'm happy to second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any other councillors wishing to speak on this one? No? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hadley, for your kind words. Absolutely want to echo the congratulations to the team. It's been a really, really fantastic effort over a course of the last couple of years that's culminated in this really successful work. In terms of the budget, I think we're making a bit of a rod for our own back in terms of how proactive we are in terms of covering damp and mould, because a third of our referrals around damp and mould are actually from our own operators who go out and do another repair, see that there's an issue, and then come back and report it, and then we go out and fix it. So but it's really important that we do that, because we need to be giving the best possible service to our tenants. And then yes, in terms of some of the issues with access, these are just kind of small percentages, but they're often residents with kind of different issues and things, and it can be quite complex in terms of trying to gain access, which is why it's actually really significant that we've got 80% of our decent homes up in the last 5 years in terms of our stock condition survey, because that doesn't actually have a legal requirement as well. So like if we can't access, we have no powers to get into people's property to do decent home checks, to do stock surveys. So it's actually really impressive that we've got up to 80%. And to get to 100% will be quite a challenge from there on in, but we hope to do so. So yeah, really proud of the team. Yeah, and just very proud again. Just going to keep saying proud. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Okay, so I'm going to ask Cabinet if we can take a decision on this one. Can I see all those in favour of the recommendations, please? That is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so we move on to agenda item 8, which is 2 Rivers Meet Studios. Councillor Herritt will be presenting and proposing this. Can I see if there's someone to second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Herritt.
Thank you, Leader. So this paper is proposed investment in 2 Rivers Meet Leisure Centre in Christchurch, one of our 5 owned and operated BCP leisure centres and the only site that serves Christchurch directly. It's already a high-performing, award-winning facility, ranking in the upper quartile nationally. However, unlike many modern leisure centres, it lacks dedicated studio space for group exercise, with, at the moment, classes taking place in sports hall or squash courts, which limits the timetable, restricts growth, and prevents the centre from fully meeting local demand. We've had independent reviews completed that highlighted a need for purpose-built studios. They confirmed that enhancing the fitness and exercise class offer will not only as the centre's main income generator, but also sees demand rising year on year, with national data from Sport England showing strong year-on-year increases in group exercise participation. We do have a wider transformation programme for all 5 of our internally run leisure centres underway. This proposal aligns with that strategic direction, but we do want to get this one underway a little sooner due to planning constraints. And get to planning much more quickly. So the proposal recommendation is to pursue option 2, and that is to build 2 new studios across a 2-storey extension, each around 150 square metres, accommodating 30 to 40 participants per class, greatly expanding our timetable, supporting community-focused activities, improving the environment for programmes, and unlocking additional revenue from private hire, further sports hall usage, holiday clubs, and pay-as-you-go classes that would not otherwise be around. Our financial modelling assumes an 18% uplift in membership, supported by sector trends, increased capacity and improved facilities. With over 20 years, the scheme projected to generate £6.3 million in additional income, with a net surplus of £1.4 million. Within the finances themselves, there is a sinking fund provided to maintain the ability to cope with big bills or refurbishment later in life. The margin for error in our finances is around 12%, with tolerance widening over time as borrowing repayment remains static, whilst inflation uplifts to memberships and other things will increase. We've not accommodated for additional parking income, but it is assumed that there will be some with uplifted usage of the centre. Overall, this investment supports our wider public health objectives, expanding access to fitness and activity for all abilities, give us additional GP referral pathways, support rehabilitation, early intervention, broaden programmes for children, adults, and those with SEND and accessibility needs. In summary, option 2 is financially sound, strategically aligned, and socially beneficial as an investment, expanding our leisure offer, increasing revenue, improving health outcomes across Christchurch and that part of our overall conurbation, bringing facilities in line with modern expectations. This is the council borrowing positively, investing in its own facilities to improve them for residents and make positive financial contributions to the long-term sustainability of the service and the council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Herritt. Any councillors not on Cabinet wishing to speak on this? Councillor Canavan.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. I don't intend to speak on the merits of this project. What I do want to speak about and question is the priorities and timing of this project. I've had to listen for some time now to you telling me about the challenges that this council is facing financially and the difficult choices which this council is having to make. And I have been asking for some time now for some insight as to what those priorities are and what choices you are looking at in terms of being able to meet the challenges that you are facing. So you do have choices in terms of what you're going to do to meet the challenges that we face. And this is a choice. What you're making here is a political choice. I'm not questioning it. What I'm seeking to clarify is that you are making a choice in advance of the publication of the Cabinet budget next week. What it seems to me that you're doing, with respect, is that you are seeking to push this to the top of the queue in advance of council being able to scrutinise the budget and to question the priorities that this council, this administration is making. And that's my worry. My other worry about this is that you are seeking to engage audit and governance in something which is not their role. The role of audit and governance, in my view, is to have oversight on the overall level of borrowing that this council makes. It is not its place to determine whether or not a particular project should be pushed to the top of the queue. It can decide whether or not £1.8 million worth of borrowing is viable in relation to the scheme and in relation to the numbers that Councillor Herriott has just rehearsed. It can do that, but it's not its job to determine priorities. Because if we are talking about health and well-being, I could spend £1.8 million quite easily on something which would be far more beneficial to far more people across this conurbation than this will. So it is a political choice. I'm not questioning it. What I'm questioning is my ability as a councillor to be able to determine whether or not this is a priority. So that's my concern about it, not the merits of the scheme, because it clearly will meet some of the objectives that you set. But £1.8 million, I know I could spend that in terms of health and well-being that would benefit more people than this will. And one of the issues that we've looked at Health and Wellbeing Board just the other day is the whole issue of health literacy, about helping people help themselves. And that is something that it seems to me to be far more valuable, given the pressures that we face in health and adult social care across our conurbation at the moment. I really do question whether this is just a nice to have or whether it is really an essential choice that you have to make at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canavan. I'm going to bring in Adam Richards, our Director of Finance, in a moment. I'll just wait for you to sit down. Adam.
Just to respond to the statement just made by Councillor Canavan, in the sense that the reason why it goes to Audit and Governance Committee is exactly for the point I think he raised with regards to Audit and Governance Committee being satisfied with the commercial viability of the proposal and the ability of the proposal to generate the income necessary to pay back the potential borrowing. And that was an additional measure that this administration introduced a couple of years ago to actually give, if you like, more governance strength around any potential borrowing proposal that the council considers.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. So I can't see any other councillors indicating who aren't on Cabinet, so I will go to Cabinet now. Councillor Hannah?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I was going to comment on Councillor Canavan's contribution, where he did indicate that he can find other ways in which to spend £1.8 million. And I must admit, I agree with him. There are plenty of ways in which we could be spending £1.8 million, and I certainly could have some in mind myself. The critical consideration to me is the fact that this will generate the income necessary to cover the revenue costs of the capital borrowing. That's not the case for the kind of expenditure that he was suggesting, or for what I might like us to do if we had the money. So this is not our prioritising spending money that means we don't have money to spend elsewhere. This is a scheme which stands alone, subject to approval from A&G. So I would give it my full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Councillor Hadley.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I had three concerns reading this report. The first one, as Councillor highlighted, is that we do need to do investment in all of our leisure centres, and I think the health and wellbeing issue around availability of exercise, and I get what Councillor Canavan was saying in terms of many other ways in which we could spend the money. But particularly at St Aldham's, there's actually restrictions on capacity in a similar sort of facility. A room that was able to take 20 is down to 8 people now, currently. And at Pool Dolphin, there's been no investment on the basis we're going to be redevelop it completely. We're not now going to, but we need to update that facility. So I guess the question is, well, how much money is it going to take to redevelop our other 5 centres? And that worries me a bit. So that was in paragraph 7. It talked about that wider programme, which I understand is coming back to us later this year. The second was about access, and image 1 shows the location, the red square of the development. The path just running right outside that is the National Cycleway from Kent to Cornwall, National Cycleway 2. But more importantly, from actually when we used to run the meetings, our council meetings in the Christchurch Civic Centre for a while, you could see the number of people who were going past the window, going to and from the leisure centre from the town. On foot and by bike, and particularly if you think about the construction phase, when presumably part of the car park will be taken for a construction site. But in any case, if you're trying to get people to do health and wellbeing, doing it on the way as well as at the venue is a really good thing to encourage. So I'd like to see that link preserved and ideally enhanced, because it's not actually the best link at all, really. But it does have national significance as well as being a really important local link. And so during construction, I want to see it safeguarded, but ideally improved as a result. But my biggest concern was actually with, I think it's paragraph 36, which talks about the sustainability. Was it? No, it wasn't. Sorry, it was 38. This measure will achieve a permanent improvement in energy efficiency way beyond the life of any renewable energy source, and that I find actually really quite offensive. And I think part of this, we spent a lot of money recently on this centre improving the building management and the solar panels, air conditioning, air recirculation. And I'd just like to be assured, as we go forward with the process, that is being taken account of, it's being linked into, and it's not going to be some standalone carbuncle on the edge of the site. So that really quite concerns me, and I would like to get some assurances. I am happy to support it, but I would like to see some more detail as this goes forward to make sure that it is actually tying into that. We made an investment on the basis of improving the carbon footprint of that site. And I don't want to see that undone by additions that don't respect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hadley. Yes, it is a bold statement in paragraph 38 there. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'm fully in support of this, and further to what Councillor Canavan said as well about the spending £1.8 million, and I have seen some criticism online of this proposal, but others, Councillor Hannah's sort of referenced it. Yeah, I could spend £1.8 million tomorrow on health and wellbeing, but all of the things that I could think of spending it on would be expenditure and would not generate a return to the council on top of that. This is very different. It's the proposal is based on the business case, and you can never be sure of what's going to happen in the future, and which is why it's all right. It should go to audit and governance to sort of for them to run their eye over the figures. But this is projected to invest £1.8 million, and then over the next 20 years, it returns that 1.8 million, and it returns an extra 1.4 million on top of that we can then spend extra on hopefully health and wellbeing services. So actually, rather than just going and spending 1.8 million, we'll end up spending £3.2 million on services for residents if this works in line with the business plan. So it's a very, very different proposal than just let's go and spend £1.8 million on supporting health and wellbeing. So this, for me, it's a really almost a no-brainer. You know, it's improving facilities that the council have. It's improving services for residents in that area. It's supporting our public health objectives about helping people to increase their fitness and activity levels. And I particularly agree with the points about growth of GP referral schemes and services for the community. And then financially on top, it actually is projected to produce a positive return for the council's finances over the next 20 years, which we can then spend on care, transport, health services, whatever it is we decide to spend on, or interest on the SEND deficit probably. But for me, it's just the criticisms of it that I've seen online are just so misplaced that actually this is a really good news item, that we are investing in our facilities, we're investing in services for our residents, and we're generating a positive financial income for the council. So I can see no reason not to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Moore. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yes, I totally agree with you, Councillor Brown, and I'm also very happy to support what is an investment at Two Rivers Meet, and I'm sure dedicated studio space will be good for the Christchurch community, and I wish the project every success. I was also very pleased to read item 7 on page 40 that a wider piece of work is underway for investment to make improvements across all 5 of BCP leisure facilities. And I look forward to learning more about this work and understand a report will be coming back to Cabinet later this year. I think this is really good news, especially when I know that the Pool Hockey Club, who play at Ashdown Leisure Centre in the Camphor Heath ward I represent, very much needs new AstroTurf because the current one is sadly beyond its original lifespan. And I know that the hockey club is a key user at Ashdown, together with many other recreational groups. And of course, the neighbouring school, Magna Academy, use that leisure centre. So much as I support the investment at Two Rivers Meet, I also hope Ashdown's AstroTurf will be a future candidate for investment this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I'm just going to interrupt the discussion. I've just checked with Democratic Services, and I should declare that I'm a member of BCP Leisure. So I'm a card-carrying member for the pool sites, but not for Two Rivers Meet. Anyway, Councillor Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So when I some colleagues will remember going back to the formation of BCP or pre-BCP, there was a lot of agitation, should we say, in Christchurch. There was a referendum, and I don't probably need to repeat the fact that 84% of those who were polled didn't want to join in with BCP. One of the big problems at the time was they felt that BCP would not invest in Christchurch, and actually, in the old Dorset County Council days, and I was on Dorset County Council for 8 years, a long time ago, there was also the similar feeling that Dorset was remote and would not be interested in Christchurch. This proposal is another really important piece of investment in the borough of Christchurch as a whole. When I first joined Cabinet, or probably when I first joined the council in 2022, one of my biggest bugbears was actually any lack of plans to invest in Christchurch as a whole in infrastructure, capital investment, etc., etc. That's completely different now. I mean, the previous administration between 2020 and 2023 was not interested in Christchurch and did very little in Christchurch. One of my bugbears was the fact that the levelling up bid, which was great for Bournemouth and Poole, had no dimension for Christchurch because nothing was put in for Christchurch. Scroll forward to almost the third year. Is it the third year of this administration? things are incredibly different, and this is another sign of the investment by this authority in Christchurch. And there are a whole list of other things I could mention that are currently going on or have gone on. I'll mention the major investment in the cliff paths in Highcliffe, which is a project which is really pushing ahead in the next few months, and that's a significant amount of money. New road safety crossings in different parts of Christchurch. The day centre in Highcliffe, which has partly been reopened to accommodate the Mudderford Wood Playgroup. Big investment, or a substantial investment from this local authority. So obviously I really welcome this, and I think it's a good point to highlight that BCP as a local authority is really investing in many different ways in Christchurch, which kind of, you know, answers the to some degree answers the fears and queries of residents when BCP was formed. So I very much welcome this, and thank Councillor Herrick and the officers for their work on this project. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Leader. I think many of the points I was going to make have already been made, but I would just emphasise the fact that, you know, Two Rivers Meet is a very, very successful centre, leisure centre. In fact, it's one of our best ones, and it's one of the best in the country, I think, and it's award-winning. So the fact that we are investing this money into it is the right thing to do. What we're doing, and this is just another emphasis of points that have already been made in respect of Councillor Canavan's point. You know, this is a commercial decision. You know, we're doing this because it will make us money, because it will improve things for people, and it's the right thing to do. And obviously, the fact that it's in my ward is even better. So, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cox. So I can't see any other indications from Cabinet, so we will take this item to a vote. Oh, sorry, I'm going to ask Councillor Herrick to sum up.
I've got quite a lot of summing up. It's fine. So I would like to thank Helen Wildman and the team for their work in bringing the report to this point. There is more work to do, so we're actually probably going to just give them more to do at this point. To be really clear, this is borrowing to support further income into the service. It's on a commercial basis, and we are able to justify this against increased income. It is, unfortunately, as nice as it would be to have at this point £1.8 million to just kind of spend on a discretionary basis. We have to have a business case to justify that, and that is what we will take to A&G tomorrow. Tomorrow, yes. Thanks to Councillor Hadley. His comments on climate and sustainability are always important and interesting. We'll be taking those comments on to make sure we're delivering this as sustainably as possible. The initial report was completed back in 2022. It's subject to a final design with delegation back to myself and our Commercial Operations Director, and I'll be happy to work with Councillor Hadley to make sure his concerns are addressed. Also understand concerns about NCN2 as part of the planning process. I believe we're going to have to uplift some cycle parking facilities there as well. So we will be making sure that access is maintained. I'm not sure planning will let that escape either. Investment in our leisure services is actually very hard to justify on a commercial basis quite often. So it's really good that we can do so in this space. In my opinion, they probably shouldn't be just a purely commercial service that have to justify their own needs, but we have to exist in that world, as we've talked about our finances quite a lot. So I think being able to fully justify an investment is a really good opportunity, and I look forward to seeing more of that from our team. As mentioned, we do have plans to come forward for other investment that we will have to justify in a very similar vein that we brought forward, hopefully on a more collective basis in the future. And I may have to fight Councillor Brown on retention of any surplus for health and wellbeing in the service. But hopefully we'll be able to invest that positively in the health and wellbeing arena. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Herrick. So we will go on to a vote on this one, please. Can I see all those in favour of the recommendations? That is unanimous. Thank you. Right, so that brings our agenda towards the end. We have one more agenda item, which is the Cabinet Forward Plan. It can... Okay, apologies. the Cabinet Forward Plan. However, we have skipped over an item, which is number 9, urgent decisions taken by the Chief Executive. Chief Executive, have you had any urgent decisions to take?
No, there are no urgent decisions to report.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that concludes the items of business for today. Thank you to all of those who have contributed. I'll now formally close the meeting.